I am so excited for our next chat. We just had such a fun pitch competition with FabFitFun. And now we're getting ready and gearing up for a fireside chat with Supergoop. So for this fireside chat, I am so excited to introduce you to Amanda Baldwin, president of Supergoop. I don't know if you can see that on your screen here. Supergoop's business has grown rapidly in recent years, reinventing the SPF category, which is so important. You should be putting it on your face every day. If you're not already, you got to protect yourself from those harsh rays, whilst bringing sunscreen to the forefront of the prestige skincare market. So President Amanda Baldwin will speak today on how the brand has sustained momentum this year in 2020 by leveraging both strategic retail partnerships as well as high-touch D2C experience for all of you online, while staying true to an authentic brand mission and educating consumers again on the importance of SPF in your products and on your faces every day, every single day. And we also have a fantastic moderator joining us today as well, Jeslyn Moyer. So I'll leave it to you ladies to please take it away.
Great to be here.
I'm so excited to join you and more importantly, talk about the bright side of e-commerce with Amanda. Can you hear me?
I can, yes.
Right, just making sure. You look gorgeous today. You must be wearing that unseen sunscreen.
I'm glow screening today. So
okay.
Zoom ready gives you like a little bit more of a glow, and also something underneath that's coming out in January, which I will not spill the beans on, but I've always got a tube that has not made it out into the world yet in my cabinet. That's always fun to use.
Oh, you're such a tease, Amanda. So first and foremost, I want to learn a little bit about your journey, what brought you to Supergoop, and what prepared you for the success that you are now experiencing with this brand.
Yeah, I have a kind of unusual background for the beauty industry. I started on Wall Street. I was an investment banking analyst, my first job out of college, and I still kind of think through a spreadsheet and a P&L when I make a decision for our company. And I think it was just an unbelievable way to start. Turned out it probably wasn't my true calling. I had all this interest in creative art and design and why this color green just looked better than that color green. And that's not the typical conversation in the banking or investing world. And that led me to write a little essay about going to business school and wanting to run a beauty company one day. So I think it was pretty early on that I figured out that that was something that I wanted to do. And I really would not be here without all the incredible people that I've worked through through the years.
What characteristics from your experience on Wall Street do you think you developed specifically, even just from working in banking or working in that industry, that led to your success now in this industry?
An incredible work ethic. That is a world in which, I was working 110-hour work weeks, which I'm not necessarily advocating, but it kind of set the bar pretty high of what was doable, what was achievable. Could you pull it off? Like, there was never a no. It was always like, time was a fungible thing, and there was always a way to pull something off. So I think that was kind of embedded me very early on. Goldman Sachs, where I worked, was a place that the level of responsibility I was given as a 21-year-old and the contributions I could make was amazing. And, I also graduated at kind of a unique moment in time, and about a year into my time as an analyst, the Twin Towers fell. It was 9/11. And I remember, when we went into a recession and all sorts of upheaval, which, I think we all can relate to now. And I remember the head of our group sitting down the analysts and saying, you might not realize this now, but this is going to be one of the better things that's ever happened to you, because you're going to see how to get through something like this. And it's certainly something that I've shared with my team as we faced the last 6+ months.
What did you take from that experience personally?
I took a lot of kind of seeing how they kept the team together, the leadership that was going on, the honesty and the transparency was really important to me. I learned a lot from watching the businesses that I was serving, seeing which ones got through, which ones went bankrupt, and the contrast in their leaders and how they made decisions. And I also learned the importance of giving back. About 6.5 months after 9/11, I actually joined the vice chairman of the firm building a nonprofit, and sort of how you could take business skills and do something for the world. And obviously that had a huge impact on my decision to come to Supergoop, which is really about, doing something with your business to change the world.
So what was your aha moment on Wall Street where you decided, okay, I'm going to pivot and go into the beauty industry?
Yeah, it came a couple of years later. I went from banking into investing in the consumer space. And I remember being at a management presentation. I worked at a wonderful firm called Apex for, again, people that I will forever be grateful for. And we were making an investment into a company called PVH, Phillips Van Heusen, and they were going to buy Calvin Klein. And I thought that they were going to have all the fun after the investment. They were going to take this brand research and they were going to go create the product. And I was like, well, wait a second, where, aren't I going to be a part of that? And, that sort of was the light bulb moment. Realizing I felt like I was so drawn to what happened afterwards and being a part of that journey. And here we are.
So what drew you specifically to Supergoop? How did you meet your business partner? How did you and Hawke connect?
Yeah, not such an exotic story. We met through a recruiter, but a great story. I've always built relationships. It was somebody that I had known for 8 years before he called me about meeting Hawke. And, I think, it's a really amazing and unique match when you're able to find a founder and a president and how do they work together. And I think we just kind of realized that we were super yin and yang, that I was totally had no desire to be what she is, which is this amazing founder who's the heart and the soul of everything that we do. And that she needed a partner who could turn that vision into a reality, who would say, here's our strategy. Here, you want to change the way the world thinks about sunscreen? Well, it's going to take this team and this distribution strategy and this marketing and this fundraising, and that kind of synergy of the way the two of us think, I think is really special. And honestly, we've never had a conversation about you do this and I do that. And I think that's evidence of how well it works.
So how do you maintain such a healthy dynamic? Because when two female leaders, sometimes that can be difficult, to be completely honest.
I think we have infinite respect for each other. I think we have infinite, we both want to win. I think the two of us are very similar in that our attitude is if there's a better way, if there's a different way, if there's somebody who can help us, why would we ever say no to that? That's not a sign of weakness. It's not a sign of, I can't do it. It's actually the smartest sign you could possibly have, is to raise your hand and say, I need help. And I think because we believe that inherently, kind of just from who we are as people, we don't look at it as, 1 minus 1, it's 1 plus 1 is 25. And I think it just comes from a lot of trust and a lot of belief that we both want to change the world, and neither one of us is going to do it on our own.
What trait do you admire most about her as a founder, and what do you think has led to her success?
Fearlessness. I never thought of myself as a risk taker or somebody who was kind of willing to live totally out on the edge. And some people might say that I'm more of that than I probably give myself credit for. But she has a fearlessness and a kind of, I think we're both super gritty. I think we're both willing to just do whatever it takes to make something happen. But she has a willingness to sort of always believe that it's going to work out. And then I've got 25 backup plans for everything. So.
And how do you think she would answer that question about you?
I think she'd probably say that she can go and do the dreaming because she knows I've worried about the 25 backup plans and that I've thought everything through, and kind of the dreaming is enabled by all of this, and that now she can spend her time bringing that human touch to everything that we do in a way that she really didn't have time to do before. So I think it's it's definitely a match that I think we're both really grateful for.
So we know Supergoop is one of the only lifestyle brands 100% dedicated to sunscreen and skincare prevention. So tell us a little bit about what makes the brand itself so unique, in your opinion, besides its just dedication.
I mean, I think the dedication is actually the root of it. I think that dedication and that mission and that belief that every single morning we get up and we say, how can we do this better? How can we change more lives? How can we get sunscreen on more faces and bodies and limbs? That focus, I actually think is our success, because our category, wasn't really something that anyone talked about before this brand showed up. And it took relentless focus and kind of saying it again and again and again over the course of nearly 16 years now, to get it to the place where it is now. I think it created a level of understanding around product. What we do and how we formulate is extremely hard to do. SPF ingredients are not super well behaving. They're unstable. They don't mix well. I mean, they're regulated, all sorts of things that most people would never put up with in 100% of their line. And I think that mission and that purpose has given us, a true north. Like, it's, for me, to guide an organization that knows what it's trying to do and just with 100% clarity, I think it's always an amazing gift. And I think now more than ever, it really kind of lets us know, and it helps us. I think when you have to get up every morning and push through when things aren't always easy, if you're doing it for something that's beyond just a business bottom line, I think it really matters. I think it's a great way to attract talent. I think is super important to us too.
I think it's so incredible. 16 years.
2005, this brand was created.
Wow.
So we're almost 2021. We'll fast forward.
So much
all
is
about that, right?
Let's talk about the timeline of 16 years, because so many startups fail in their first 5 years, in their first 10 years. But the fact that you have made 16 years and made such an incredible impact on this market, what were some of the most pivotal, moments in that timeline that provided you with this success?
Yeah, I mean, I think, as I say, Rome wasn't built in a day. And I think we live in a world now in which there is an expectation that everything happens overnight. I think if you actually look back, I learned a little bit about Netflix yesterday, and they were created, I think, in the 1990s at some point. And of course, they're all over our lives now. But I just think I would love to encourage people who are out there to reframe your timeline a little bit and realize that step by step, brick by brick actually has a lot more impact over time. It's a lot more stable. I think the thing that I've really come to appreciate is that if you take the time to build something well, it's a lot more steady and stable, for whatever you face. And of course, there's many things along the way of formula breakthroughs, getting into Sephora, having a marketing team. We didn't have a marketing team until 3 years ago. So there wasn't actually marketing money behind this organization. So those are some big things that have been unlocks for us as a brand.
So talk us through navigating some of those big things, because it's easy to gloss over. These were big things. We didn't have a marketing team, and then bam, I've got a marketing team. I mean, what did you do? How did you build this super team, and what effect did that have on the company itself?
I mean, I think it was the number one thing that I was sort of tasked with day one was where are we going and how are we going to get there? But that doesn't mean anything if you don't have the people that are going to be, on the proverbial bus with you. And that's honestly where I think about everything first is here's the strategy, but it's meaningless without the person who's going to guide and lead it. I think I've learned a lot about how to find talent, how to interview effectively. One thing that we would do that I think is a great piece of advice for people is that once we started to feel like the team was really gelling and we kind of okay, what is this that we found? And we actually went out and I talked to everybody one-on-one and was why did you come? What keeps you here? And actually saw an incredible amount of consistency, and that became the foundation of developing a core set of values. So we didn't just assume that a culture would show up. I took that as seriously, and I continue to take that as seriously as the business strategy was, who are we and what do we represent and who do we want to be? And I think getting that right helps the recruiting a lot.
What are those core values for Supergoop and your team?
So there's multiple of them, but some of the ones that are, I think most favored among us all are, we say we're teachers and we're students. Holly, our founder, was a teacher before she had this job, before she created this business. And I think this concept of like, you can always learn something, you can always do better. I mean, that's sort of the entrepreneurial mindset that we never want to lose sight of. And we're also out there teaching the world. So, being proud about that. The other one that I love that we were just talking about as a team right before this was we're serious with a smile. We have a really serious mission, but we find joy in it. We're here to get rid of skin cancer, but the way we're going to do it is because we're going to bring joy to people's lives. And I think that also permeates how we operate internally. Like, we have big goals, we've got a lot to accomplish, but honestly, when people talk about productivity now, I'm like, that's not my metric. My metric is how much laughter do I hear? How many smiles do I see? That's when I know our team is doing well.
I love that you said that. Thank you for being so honest and sharing those values with us, because that's really, I think, the bottom line behind the success of a company and the success of its employees, which is so vital, especially in these times. So, I think it's important, while we don't want to focus just on COVID and the effect it's had on your company, how have you been able to maintain kind of that culture and that camaraderie in a time where we all do feel so isolated?
It's hard. It's hard. I mean, I would be the first to say it's hard. It's the thing that I found to be the greatest challenge that I face personally is, keeping the energy alive, right? When we're all Zooming and, not together, and we actually really like each other. So we're like, wait a second, we can't be together. But finding, one of the things that we started literally back in mid-March when this all started happening was we started a Rise, Shine, and SPF call. And it, started at 5 days a week. We're now doing it twice a week because people needed more time, but we just got together. And I would share what was going on with the business. We've had a series of different people who mean something to me or other people in the organization, like talk. We actually get up and everybody gets to present their life journey. And it's so fun to watch people all of a sudden make all these connections that they might never realize of common interests. And we actually have 2 offices plus a field team. And I think the silver lining of all this is we've gotten to know each other in a way we never would have otherwise.
That's really beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. And how has it affected your strategy now that you've got this team in place? We'll go back to, building that marketing team and those core values and the workplace culture. How have you navigated this now, from then to now? I mean, how has it evolved?
I think probably most of what I would say would not be totally new news, right? Digital commerce, we are fortunate in that we had a very strong foundation in that coming into this. And so we were just kind of pivoted everything to be about what was happening online. So we do have a real, very important business to us that happens in store. And so when that shut down, we had to rethink things. And it also happened during Q2 when usually we have the most exposure in stores and things like that. So, it was an interesting quarter for us to kind of lose some of the things that we often depend on. But I think, it opened up a lot of other opportunities. I think we really tried to think about the clarity of our mission that never changes, which is wear sunscreen every single day. But what every single day looks like for all of us is quite different. But we found that the sun's still out. And people now more than ever, outside is the place where we all want to be. Definitely need sunscreen for that. And even as we all sit in front of screens, we've done a lot of research into blue light and the importance of that. So we just figured out we always believe in sort of meeting the consumer where he or she is from a product development point of view, from a marketing point of view. We have a mission. We've got to figure out how to communicate that in a way that makes sense to people.
So how have you done that? I mean, there are a lot of trends, obviously, we can cover for e-commerce in 2020 and what's happening now, but how are you really connecting online with your consumer?
We have an amazing team that runs our website and really thought about the content there and what we were putting into emails, our social media. I mean, gosh, that thing gets iterated on almost daily to be really, aware of what's happening around us, really sensitive to that. responding to it, being a part of the conversations that are happening. So I think it's probably in those two places that we're most focused. But even, you know, our Sunshine Squad, or the folks that are in stores, you know, when they can be, they're like, I'm just here to spread sunshine. And so I think we really always think about that. And if we get that part right, then the rest takes care of itself.
And you have a product that everyone in the world should be using, and which is really interesting and very unique. Not many people can say that about their product line, but how do you still tailor that then to make it feel like an individualized experience?
Well, that's where a lot of our product development is, you know, and I think that, you know, that we have over 40 different options of products to even choose from. So we have a line that's designed for 6-month-old babies. That probably you or I are not going to slather all over our faces, but you know, some people do actually. I mean, we you know, but we think very. Say that again.
I said, but if it makes me look younger.
Younger, exactly. We all want the baby skin, but you know, so we think about it usually product first. I mean, we're a very product first organization, and so thinking about those needs and then meeting the product that's going to deliver them is really important. And then obviously making sure that our messaging shows up in the right places. We have a lot of work to do. We have so many more people to communicate with. It's so exciting. It's why I joined this brand, is because, to your point, I thought it was really unique. I've never had a brand that I've worked on that like truly can say it is for everyone around the world. And that's what's going to keep us going, and why we're just at the beginning.
That's so exciting. And so many people not only, you know, aspire to run a successful company, but they aspire to be the president like you. And, you know, some people are obviously in different parts of their journey and just starting out, but what advice could you share with them on, you know, that kind of career trajectory and what your role really looks like and entails?
You know, I think I believe that hard work is never overrated. You know, that like put in the time, put in the energy, you know, make yourself indispensable to your team, to whomever you're working with, working for, who's working for you. It goes in every single different direction. You know, I really start there. I think if you put in the effort, it will come. And I think, you know, back to the whole things don't happen overnight. I think, you know, I think back on every little leg of the journey and just kind of trying to make the most of every single one of those experiences, and also just be really, I was always really focused, and I still am really focused on, if I'm not learning something, then I'm not doing what I should be. And like, what's the new thing that I'm doing to learn about what's happening next, to keep my skill set as a leader, to keep my skill set as a marketer, because, you know, that's really where my heart and soul is, always relevant. So ingesting tons of information is the other one that I spend a lot of time on.
So what are you learning right now? Where are you getting this information? Who are you looking to?
Yeah, I mean, I've been doing a lot of thinking on, you know, what is a brand, what's important for a brand to be now and looking forward. I think that we are at this sort of incredible moment of, you know, what makes a great brand will always be great product and emotional connection. But I think what creates an emotional connection from now until, you know, the next thing that shifts human behavior is going to feel very different than it did in 2019 and back, you know, however many years you want to connect. So I've been doing a lot of reading and a lot of thinking about trying to distill that down into 2 or 3 guiding ideas, so that you know, our team is really thoughtful about, again, I think we're successful because we figure out, you know, we have a mission and how that mission is relevant today, which I really believe it's more relevant than ever.
So where else are you getting this information, this education?
Everywhere. I mean, I like every newsletter I can get my hands on, every podcast that I can listen to. You know, I think it's actually not about one source of information. I think I'm a big believer in pattern recognition, that like a lot of times you start to read something or hear it enough times, and then you know you're really onto something. So I probably sort of vote for consumption of a lot, and then trying to see where something, a theme recurs. And I think that takes getting a lot of different perspectives and getting outside of your industry. So I love the beauty industry, but it's only one piece of the puzzle.
It's very analytical of you. It speaks to your Wall Street experience.
Yeah, I know. That is definitely guilty as charged.
I love that. Well, thank you for being so honest. We appreciate it. Who have been some of your biggest mentors in both your, personal and professional life, who've really played an important
Gosh, so many. And as I started by saying, like, I wouldn't be where I am without, like, and I could rattle off names, but I think the point is that there's always been one or two people in every single piece of my career that have like left a huge impression on me. Whether that was, my first MD at Goldman, who used to let me sit in his office and ask a million questions as this, young 21-year-old who, I've seen him recently. He's like, Amanda, you used to ask a lot of stuff that showed you knew nothing, but he would sit there and he would listen to me. And I try and do that too for people and just sort of like let them ask the questions. So there's people like that. There's the women in the beauty industry who, I would sit in meetings and I would just watch them and I would just try and absorb what they were doing, how they were acting, what were they thinking about. And so some of it's very, active, and some of it was just like absorbing it and being around it. Holly's been an amazing mentor. My board has been incredible to me. Like there's so many people that I wouldn't, it's really, I think it's not one person, it's the people in the collection, back to the whole, learn from everything. And you can learn a different thing from every single person that you encounter. And my team, I learned so much from, I've learned that I'm no longer the one who has the most cutting edge information. And so what I'm learning from them and being really, they're closer to their parts of the business than I will ever be. And really, I'm really like want to stop and want to listen. And I'm really working really hard on that. I think it's a place that I'm still learning to grow, which is like really absorbing the information from my team and what they're hearing.
You mentioned questions. What questions do you get most often if people are stopping you on the streets and they get a moment with the president of Supergoop? What are they asking?
That doesn't happen. Which sunscreen should I wear? Which one should I wear? And I have a lot of friends that are asking me a lot of beauty questions. I think we're all staring at ourselves on Zoom a lot. So my college friends have started asking me a lot of questions about what beauty products to wear. That's probably the thing that people ask me the most. The other thing that I think is important to say is like a lot of people say, well, how do you do it all? And I will be the first to say I have a lot of help. Back to this, like you can't do it by yourself. I have an amazing husband. I have an amazing caretaker for my son. Like I'm not shy about that. And I wouldn't be where I am today. I wouldn't, I did not work from home and homeschool my kid at the same time. Like I had help. And I would never want to leave anyone with the impression otherwise.
Thank you for being transparent about that, because I do think it's so important. We as female entrepreneurs are often told that we can't have it all. And you are a living example of someone who can have it all. And I think that is so
With a lot of help. With a lot of help, and not everything all the time. That was some great advice I was given, is like, it's not everything all the time. You can have it all, not everything all the time. Yeah.
I think that's really important to recognize that there's seasons of our lives where we can focus on our relationships, we focus on our business, focus on our children, but still being able to have enough to give, enough energy and time to give to your employees, to your teams, to your board, to your customers. So how do you stay somewhat balanced? Yes, you have great help, but it's something you have to personally take responsible for yourself as well.
Yeah, I think learning not to feel guilty about saying like, actually, I need to go do this for myself, that's not, again, like a sign of weakness or not being able to do it all. It's actually, some self-preservation is actually necessary. I'm not great at it. But I will tell you, I sort of have believed through all this that I'm still seeing my friends wherever, in whatever way I can, going for a walk outside and feeling like that's a good use of time. That's not a bad use of time, or something that I should be doing something else. So I think giving myself time for that. I walk and run and like try and get outside physically, I think is really important. Not to sit in front of a laptop. We instituted something else here at Supergoop, also week 1, which was 1 to 2 o'clock, laptops down, get outside. I think it's really important. And, I love to read and kind of do things like that take my mind somewhere else.
Thank you for being honest. So moving forward with 2020 and looking forward to 2021, what's next for you? What's next for Supergoop?
Gosh, that's a big question. I think for us, we're always building to kind of where, who can we communicate with next? Who can we communicate with better? Who can we develop product for that would serve an unmet need? So I think we're always focused on that. I'm really excited about, what we have, getting back to some of the things that quite honestly, we had planned and all went bye-bye when we weren't sure what was going to happen. And we had to make a lot of tough decisions about like, okay, we can't do that marketing activation or these things that I'm like getting back to the dreaming. I'm super motivated by, I know my team is really motivated by, and being able to kind of turn that back on and bring the sunshine that I know that we need to and we should, I think has been really fun over the last little bit of time. Yeah, I think those are the big ones for us.
What are you most looking forward to?
I think I'm always excited about, to me, like going back to it, like I always love to meet new people, learn new things. That's always what keeps me going. I'm finding it a lot. I'm like now going back through first grade and they learn math very differently than we did. And I'm like even excited about that and kind of seeing how my son, how he's learning and what he's uncovering and watching that happen has been really just wonderful.
Thank you for sharing that. Okay, well, we've got some questions from the audience that I'd like to pose for you. Right now, we've got a question from Alice. She says, your blogger and influencer game is very strong. Can you please tell us about that from the start, the strategy with your influencers, what worked, what didn't, and getting the word out?
Yeah, I mean, well, first of all, first and foremost, I would say there are people on our team who do this every day and who are experts at this. So strategy number 1, find somebody who's better at it than I could ever be. Number 2 is, really, I think, I grew up in a world in which there were these things called print magazines and, there were editors and advertising and, and this is sort of a new world that has the same concept. And I think, it's relationship building. I think that, a great strategy is these are wonderful people who have points of view, who this is what they do for a living, who have these audiences that like really want to hear what they have to say. And so again, building a relationship with them, understanding where they're coming from, making sure that, the products that we're talking to them about, are the ones that are right for them personally, are the ones that are right for their audience. I think, being very bespoke about it. I think there is certainly an ROI aspect and a mathematical aspect to marketing, like there has to be, but not getting lost in that and kind of finding the balance of them. And really, we always work with people who are Supergoop lovers, because why would we do anything else? But I think that authenticity and really finding the people that connect with your brand is super important.
And keeping it 100% transparent, is there anything that you tried that didn't work when it came to influencer marketing?
It's always been like working with someone who probably like for whatever reason Supergoop wasn't the thing that they wanted to love. And like, so if it comes from a place that's not deep authenticity, I think that's where, you get yourself into a result that maybe just isn't what you were hoping it to be.
Thank you, Alice, for the great question. Anne wants to know if you can tell us the story behind the name Supergoop.
I can. I've heard it many times. Holly, when she was first creating this brand, she was making the goop. She was not from the beauty industry, and she had jars full of goop, and she would pass them around her friends and her family and say, which one do you like the best? And all of a sudden our first formula, which we still make, which is called, actually was the one that was being held up in the intro, Everyday Lotion. It's had about 8 iterations since, but it was the original formula. And when she finally found it, she's like, this goop is super. And lo and behold came the name Supergoop, and an exclamation point, because it was a super exciting time. And I think it really gets to the essence of our brand, because right from the get-go, she knew that if she was going to change the way the world thought about sunscreen, she needed a name that would evoke joy. Most people, when they think of sunscreen, kind of go, goodness, I don't want to do that. I think we've changed that attitude, but it's, you know, it came from the beginning of just kind of the spirit of the brand and how we operate.
It really did change the way we thought about sunscreen. It had kind of a bad reputation. You know, you needed it, but you didn't want something.
You didn't actually want to do it, right? So that's what we're there for.
Well, thank you. Okay, so Emma wants to know if there's a secret recipe for interviewing R&D into your products and marketing without having it be the core of your brand identity.
So I guess the question is a little bit around science and how is that integrated? You know, I think it's sort of, it's a really interesting and an evolving topic is what I would say. So, you know, I think Supergoop was actually quite out of the box in that it was a brand that was all about fun and joy and not a lot of science. And when it was first launched and on the shelves in Sephora, it's kind of what I'll call the era of the doctor brands, like tons of doctor brands, lots of hardcore science, lots of molecules, and everybody was fixing everybody's wrinkles. And, you know, that was where Supergoop stand. And I think it actually gave it this great kind of unexpected voice. And I think was a lot of the reason why people gravitated to it right away. I think that it's certainly, as we've built the brand, something that we're actually now leaning more into telling the science, because I think that there's been a huge evolution in the industry of people really wanting to geek out with you on ingredients. And there's so much thought that goes into everything that we do. We were just, again, talking about a new launch that's coming up, and it just blew my mind hearing for the 25th time why we did everything that we did in a formulating point of view. So I think you might hear more about it from us, because I think we think it's an important part of what we do. And I think the consumer is becoming more and more interested in that. So again, we really try and meet people where they are.
Especially now, we're becoming more and more savvy with the products that we're using on our bodies, because we are so much more self-aware because of all this, because of COVID. So given the question from Katie that we've been mostly inside the majority of the year due to COVID, did that affect the business at all? Obviously, I'm sure it has. How did it? And how have people been wearing less SPF? Or have people been wearing less SPF?
Not at all. You know, I think so here's the two things I would say about that is, did people probably not go on their usual spring break? Yes. But think about, you know, a lot of the behavior that's happening now is, like I was saying, outside is the safest place you can be, right? And I know so many people who are relying on their morning run or their weekend hikes or anything like that. So I would say that first and foremost has probably, you know, been a shift in where some of the more traditional uses of sunscreen are. But we've always been a brand that's about every single day usage. If you are sitting in front of a screen, in front of a window, all of that is the same level of UVA damage that you would be getting from walking outside. So you need SPF as much as you did when you were maybe commuting to and from work. That hasn't changed. I know where I sat for 6 months, and it was in a window with light coming right onto my cheek all day. That's, you know,
the age spots I've got all on the left side from driving.
You know, so I think like it's something that's so core to who we are, is making sure actually people understand that this concept of being inside actually has nothing to do with whether you need SPF. And that's something that we really leaned into. And I think people understood that, and are understanding it more and more because of the work that we've done, that we've actually, you know, I feel very fortunate that our businesses continue to perform.
Amy would like to know how you deal with having a similar name to Goop, Gwyneth Paltrow's brand, and if that causes any brand confusion.
You know, Gwyneth is a friend of the brand. Supergoop actually came before. And so, you know, not really, you're not the first person to ask, but I don't think it impacts us.
Okay. Julia would like to know, Supergoop's demo is women. Will there be any products tailored to men? Men don't really realize how important SPF is.
Great question. First of all, I would say I don't think our demo is just women. From the very get-go, this brand was built to be unisex. That's why our packaging and our name and everything, our colors are what they are. And it was, that first everyday formula is still a top seller, and tons of men use it. And it's certainly something that we will, we'll plan to do more of. But it's very, everything the reason I love this brand is because like everything was there from day one. So stay tuned for more.
Well, we do have a question from one of your male followers. Do higher SPFs really block out more sun?
Yeah, it's a great question. So there's SPFs under SPF 30, there's 30 to 50, and then there's above 50. Our sweet spot and our firm belief is that 30 to 50 is where you want to be. Anything under 30 is not enough protection, according to the American Academy of Dermatology. You're kind of blocking out less than 95% of rays, depending upon where you are on that spectrum. Then between 30 and 50, you're getting up to like 98.5. Percentage of rays. And then you have between 50 and above, you're kind of getting that, it's an asymptotic line, to be metric about it. So you're getting less and less with more and more ingredients. So we don't believe in, nor quite frankly does the FDA, higher than an SPF 50, because you're piling in so many more ingredients to get that SPF level up relative to the benefit. And no sunscreen is 100%. So you always need to, if you're in direct sunlight at the beach, get some shade, wear a hat, reapply, all these things, no SPF can protect you 100%. So that's really the sweet spot that I would look for, depending upon what product you're looking at.
We have a very important question from Emma, who says, what's the best way to remember to buy more sunscreen when you see yourself running out? Does Supergoop?
Oh, sign up for Supermail on our website, and we will happily put you on a subscription product. It will get shipped free to you, whichever SKU you like, and you can pick, how frequently you want it. So that is how we will solve that problem.
What's been a very memorable brand collab you've done? What was the campaign around it?
Oh gosh, there's so many. I'm gonna have a hard time picking, but I'll pick kind of one of our first that we did. We say, but first sunscreen is sort of like the thing that you do, the first thing you get, wake up in the morning. And we partnered with Alfred Coffee to brand their, the sleeves around their coffee sleeves. So with all these sort of fun things that said, I like my SPF strong, my coffee stronger, and rise, shine, and SPF. And it was something that was really early on. They do it a lot now, but our head of marketing and I showed up in their coffee shop in LA, and we're like, hey, nice to meet you. We're from this little brand that nobody's heard of yet, and here we are. And it's just it was a great scrappy story of us kind of figuring out how to do something fun.
I remember having a latte with that on it. It was very.
Oh, there you go. And we love making brand friends. So if there are brand friends out there in the audience, please email us and get in touch, DM us, whatever. We love doing partnerships.
In doing that, what's the best way to get your attention when offering a partnership opportunity or an idea? What are you really looking for?
Something that makes sense, that really is organic, that again, that made a lot of sense because they say, but first coffee, we say, but first sunscreen, it was just sort of a no-brainer. So I think that's what we're looking for, is really something that just feels super organic, creative, out of the box. We have folks on our team who do this all day long. So again, DM us, hello@Supergoop, those get forwarded along. And we're planning a lot for next year, so we'd love to hear from anyone.
Very exciting. Okay, so Jane would like you to walk us through an entire product story from idea sourcing to development to marketing campaigns. She's really curious.
She's really curious. I love the question, but I don't think I'm going to be able to answer it all because that would be giving away the secret sauce. But I think it can be a really long journey creating an SPF product. It's chemistry is hard. Lots of things we think are going to work and then they totally fail on us and we have to go back to this drawing board and we just like iterate and iterate and iterate and we're kind of never satisfied. So it's a process that's hard to put your finger on too. It's sort of the magic of what we do, kind of how we birth ideas and bring them to life. So sorry, I can't be too specific on that one.
Elise would like you to know how you address ingredient changes or formula changes with your customers, especially if it's not well received.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think we always believe in just putting it out there and being super transparent, explaining what we did, why we did it, because there's always a why. Like we don't do anything just because. We don't do anything just because it's a trend or something that we feel like we should. We do it because we know this category better than anybody else and because it's something that we believe is the right science and that we're really sort of done the research behind it. We're also really humble and believe that no formula is ever finished. Like I said, everyday sunscreen, I think it's on iteration 8. And I'm sure that won't be the end because when you believe in clean, and we've believed in clean before it was a topic of conversation, we created the first oxybenzone-free sunscreen back in 2005 before, I think people are even talking about this thing. Ingredients change, science changes, something that you could, thought was okay before, we just relaunched our CC screen. We raised the SPF, we reformulated a huge chunk of the formula because we decided we had to pull something out and we laid it all out there. And we actually, gave it to a lot of people who were huge fans of the old one and said like, look, we just want you to try this. So I think just kind of, I find that there's something super liberating about being a marketer today because people just want to know the truth and the why. And I think most people will kind of go with you if you give them that.
What about athletes? Are your products sweat resistant? Do you have any products designed for people who sweat a lot outdoors?
Yeah, we do. We have I'm talking a lot about every day, which now you know why it's been with us for so long. But that formula we hear from around the world and from some athletes who are definitely names you would recognize. That is the product that they not only use when they're practicing, it's the only thing they'll compete with because it doesn't leave their hands super sticky or sweaty, doesn't run in their eyes. I mean, I've heard it from everything from skiers to tennis players to runners to equestrians to beach volleyball players, soccer players. So I definitely, if someone's an athlete out there, I would highly recommend it. We very much believe in clean chemical formulas because your pores can sweat and breathe. But all of our products are also reef safe, which was a huge undertaking that we just did in the last year.
Brock would like to know if you have any partnerships with estheticians. Do they recommend Supergoop to clients?
Yeah, we have a lot of estheticians who love us. We work with, we actually have a group of dermatologists who are investors in this company. So, we definitely have that. And if somebody's interested, please reach out to us.
Will you guys be branching out of SPF and into more other products?
I think we know what our purpose is in life. It's to protect the skin. So we got a lot of work to do on that first.
Carly's wondering what's been the most successful marketing tactic in moving customers to subscription?
That's a great question. I think usually somebody who's going to move on subscription is someone who's already a loyalist to the brand. So it's probably the things that are reaching, just being on the website so that somebody knows that it's there, right? Thinking about your email, your SMS strategy, things that are meeting somebody who's already purchased the product, I think is probably the most realistic thing to think about in that case.
Darren wants to know how you communicate the utility of sunscreen to communities that don't usually use it.
It's a huge part. We always start every journey with why SPF. We don't assume that anyone knows why they need SPF, whether, whatever their reasons are, and everybody has a different one. I think that is where we start our communication. So I think it's not a thing that we have to do once in a while. It's a thing that we have to do all the time. And I think it's like one of the things that when you wake up and you think about this brand, it's not shifting like from using a product that a different type of the same product. It's like literally creating a new behavior. And that is hard, but it's also like incredibly rewarding to see when it happens.
We have a great question from Erica. Have you ever done any partnerships with skin cancer awareness organizations? What did that look like? What was your favorite activation or campaign? If not, would you?
Yeah, so we're really focused on education because Holly was a teacher, and actually the first round of Supergoop was in schools. So we have a partnership with MD Anderson where we donate pumps of sunscreen to schools, and we, with it comes early childhood education around how to use it. And Holly's even written a song about how to put sunscreen on. So that's really where we focused. I think as we grow, we'll continue to explore other opportunities. It is at the heart and soul of what we're trying to accomplish.
Some people are just die-hard sun lovers and they want their tan. Stephen, all the way from Jersey Shore, says he loves a tanning bed. Do you have products that would help make that a safer experience?
No, please don't do that. My dear, dear friend, please don't do that. It's really, I don't want to impose anything on you, but it's really not good for you. There's nothing that's going to protect you from that. I'm sorry. We do have a product called Healthy Glow, which has a self tanner with an SPF built in, which I might encourage people to use who want to glow.
That's a great option. It really is. Are there
not in the tanning bed?
tanning bed.
Don't put that on. It's not going to stop from the tanning bed, but maybe it can replace the tanning bed. Something like glow screen gives, great glow on the face. So we know that people want to, embrace something that, of how they want to look, but I think I'd encourage Healthy Glow.
What are your top 5 bestsellers?
We don't talk about that super publicly, but I will say that Unseen Sunscreen and Everyday, as we've talked about them, are definitely some of our bestsellers.
Alice would like to know, when and why did you start using Amazon as a channel instead of staying DTC only?
Yeah, look, I think that Amazon is an important part of a strategy for someone in our shoes, and that's for 2 reasons. One, by partnering with Amazon, we are able to ensure that all the product that people purchase that is labeled as Supergoop truly is Supergoop. And when you think about what we're doing, protecting the skin from skin cancer, I need to know that anything that somebody's buying is going to protect them. Like, the worst thing that could ever happen is that somebody would get a sunburn on our watch, right? Or like use something that was expired or who knows what else. So like, if you're not on Amazon, you can't control your brand and your product on Amazon. So that was something that was very early and important to us. The other thing is that, like, look, we all maybe need something yesterday, super convenient. And Amazon allows us to, answer to that in a way that probably as a young brand, we couldn't deliver that level of sort of instantaneous delivery. Although, there's certainly some movements out there that are improving that across a lot of different retail channels. But I think, my feeling is if you're not on Amazon, then somebody else is with your product or some version of your product.
How often does Supergoop need to be reapplied during the day? How early can you go outside or near light, etc.?
Yeah. So any sunscreen, not just Supergoop, needs to be reapplied every 2 hours in direct sunlight. So that is just fact. That's science. Sunscreen actives are a defined set of actives. What you do with the rest of the formula is what, kind of makes the magic of our product. So any sunscreen needs to be reapplied every 2 hours if you're in direct sunlight. Now, I would say I would categorize direct sunlight as like, I'm at the beach, I'm outside super active. If you're in a situation where you're inside, I usually use Defense Refresh. Some people love powder. We have 2 products that you can do that before I go out, for my 1 o'clock walk or to, go get lunch or anything else like that. I'm not sitting at my desk every 2 hours, and I'm more realistic than that. But if you're at the beach every 2 hours, and definitely once you come out of the water, most products have, 40 to 80 minutes of water resistance.
Circling back on our friend from Jersey, Erica wants to know if you'd ever get one of the Jersey Shore cast members to be an influencer to join you in your mission. Oh, it could be a great way to convert tanners into customers and help a new segment of people protect their skin, like our dear friend Stephen.
I think that's a great idea. Look, it's, we really believe in SPF for all, and part of that is, helping people understand how they can incorporate it no matter what their lifestyle is.
And our last question from the audience, from Kaylin, do you have any suggestions for talking to loved ones, maybe like Stephen, about the importance of sunscreen, especially those who don't feel like it matters?
Have them maybe, you know, check out our Instagram account. I think we put a lot of content up there that's just meant to be fun and joyful in how you do it. And I think really, if we go back to the mission of this brand, is to create a product where you don't have to convince someone to put up with something they don't really want to put up with. There is an option out there that, you know, I really think someone would love, enjoy wearing. And if we haven't created it yet, send us an email with what your idea is, and maybe we will. Because I think it does start with a product that you don't have to feel like, oh, I'm going to do this because I have to. You're going to do it because you want to.
You've mentioned being able to send you an email with product ideas or potential collaborations. What's the best way to contact Supergoop?
I think hello@Supergoop is probably the best way, and it'll get filtered to whomever on the team is sort of the best person to take it. And if there's something specific you want to take up with me, just sort of mention that in the email. I think that's probably the best way to handle it.
Thank you so much for sharing your time and your insight with us today, Amanda. Do you have any final words of inspiration or any remarks on the brand that you'd like to leave us
with? Best of luck, and be healthy and be safe for everyone, and wear sunscreen.
There's always a bright side. All the fun stuff. Thank you so much. Stay well and take care.
Thank you, everyone.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jeslyn and Amanda. Perfect timing. Just finished reapplying my Supergoop over here. Like Amanda mentioned, the Everyday, which is, I don't know if you can see that with the virtual background here, one of the Supergoop best sellers, you know, SPF 30. So make sure you're wearing the right SPF for your skin tone. Like Amanda mentioned, lower SPF, not for everyone, clearly. Even though I don't get out much because I've been quarantining and sheltering in place for a few months now, so I'm mostly at home, still important to rise and shine and wear SPF every day, ideally Supergoop if you can. Like Amanda said, but first, sunscreen. You know, we've talked about a lot. Most people say, but first, coffee. Depending on some of your thoughts on maybe our pitching competition this morning, maybe more of you will even consider Rise or other superfoods and caffeine and coffee alternatives.